Everybody's eating today.
Hey family, hey. If you can hear me, clap your hands. Okay, good, wonderful. All right. My name is Eugene, and I represent an amazing collective of growers and producers called Grow Where You Are. Anybody have a smartphone? Who has a smartphone? Take a minute and type in growwhereyouare.farm. Growwhereyouare.farm. That's who we are. We have a table set up with a white tent right behind you, and at that table you can get books, you can get t-shirts, you can get allergy tea for anybody who's sniffling and things like that at this time of the year. But the reason why we do it is really the important piece. And we've traveled around the world just because we know how to grow food. And while we've traveled around the world, we've seen some really interesting things. And when we were in Kenya is one of the most amazing countries because it's right on the equator. So there's no daylight savings time or any of that stuff.
Excuse me, bro.
All year round, it's 12 hours of sun and 12 hours of dark, right? And it's an amazing, beautiful, tropical space where the sun rises and sets like clockwork. And when we were walking through Nairobi, women and children, homeless, approaching us, asking for food. Now, how does it make sense for there to be hunger on the equator?
That's right.
Now, when we have hunger on the equator, and then we find ourselves here in Atlanta, and in Atlanta we see a conglomerate of amazing people that show up, many of whom are from the continent, like my brother Ebrima.
That's right.
And they have all kinds of experiences, and you wonder why is it that we ended up here in Atlanta?
Right,
how come we got brothers from the Sudan, and how come we have sisters from the Congo, and how come we have all of these folks ended up here, and I'm a brother from California?
Speak about it.
So why are we ending up in Atlanta? If there's hunger on the equator in Kenya, and then we find ourselves in Atlanta and there's still hunger. There's still a need for food, clothing, and shelter, the basics, and y'all know that if we don't get past our basic needs, then we never can get into our higher calling. The reason why the Nile Valley civilization generated so much beauty and abundance, the reason why all these civilizations in South America generated so much power, is because they situated themselves on rivers where they could stabilize their agriculture. And once you stabilize your agriculture, then you get teachers and musicians and astrologers and astronomers and midwives. But without the food, you're not going to get none of that. What you're going to get is warfare.
Woo! You don't want that.
We have that. We have that.
That's right.
Right now in Baltimore, what do we have? My wife Giovanna told me that in Baltimore, Whole Foods was publicizing that they were feeding the National Guard. Now check it out. If we got a riot going on in our city, regardless of the circumstances that cause it, if we got a riot going on in our city, and the National Guard is called in, is the National Guard, are they volunteers? Or do they get paid?
They get paid.
They get paid. So if they're called in, and now Whole Foods is bringing them food for them to eat for free, taking the picture of the National Guard eating the food from Whole Foods, and they publicize it. Now, if you got a war going on and there's two fighting armies, the one you feed is the one that wins traditionally, correct?
Correct.
So who's feeding the other folks in Baltimore? So it's easy for me to get up here and speak a lot about a couple different things. We got carrots on the table, we got medicinal tinctures and allergy tea, and we got t-shirts and we got books. But the reason why we have to have all of those things is because here in Atlanta, growing food does not earn myself a living to sustain my family. Yet people who advocate for local food systems have full-time paid positions at advocacy organizations. Now, how can you advocate for something and get paid more than the people that you're advocating for? Wait a minute. Did everybody just go to sleep? How can you advocate for the poor or the homeless and get $80,000 a year? How can you advocate for local farmers and have a full-time paid position? How can the food bank be celebrating 50 years of giving out processed canned food? If we're here to solve the issues, then it behooves us to be committed at the level of the issue.
Yes, sir.
My brother Ebrima has come to me and offered me these platforms on many occasions, and I'm grateful to you, brother. And one of the things that I know for sure is that he's experienced the things that he's talking about. I'm holding up his shirt. That's clothing.
It's our shirt. Like you said, when we get food, clothing, and shelter, everything is secure. We can start thinking.
And so, I know you grow food. I know I've experienced homelessness. I know my family's experienced homelessness. And when we see how this continues to translate all through our communities, and I mean our global communities, we got to really ask ourselves some serious questions. This place here, the Lake Claire Land Trust, is an amazing prototype. It's an amazing example of what can be done. How many of you are familiar with Southwest Atlanta and the West End and Oakland City? All right. So y'all know you drive past as many boarded up homes as I drive past. So what do we do? How does that become a land trust? What are we going to wait for? My experience has shown me that when we go and we take over abandoned lots and we plant the food, that's one way of doing it, but oftentimes that's an amazing tool for gentrification in a way that is really unexpected. But what we can do is partner with landowners who currently own property in these neighborhoods. What we have done at the Good Shepherd Agroecology Center is partner with Good Shepherd Community Church on Lawton and Lucille, 1 block away from the West End Park where they have the Malcolm X Festival every year. And the reason we partnered with Good Shepherd Community Church is because the universe told us, but more importantly, because these faith-based institutions own property throughout the nation. And here in Atlanta, this ain't like California. These trees grow thick. We got plenty of water. So if a faith-based institution already owns property and you know how to grow food, then form the necessary partnerships to be able to stabilize a food system so that people can see it. Our food systems cannot feed all of the West End, but what they can do is turn people on. This place, the Lake Claire Land Trust, definitely cannot house all the homeless when the stuff hits the fan. But we can come here and hopefully get turned on to an idea of how to live in a communal way and how to divide up and share our resources. Does any of this make sense?
Yeah.
Does any of this make sense?
Yes, sir.
So at this point in time, what we want to do is remind you. The reason the name of our social enterprise is Grow Where You Are is because at whatever stage, in wherever situation you find ourselves in, we can grow into another stage. I've had many of the faces out here have come and volunteered at our farm, and we've been able to interact on a lot of different levels. And what we know for sure is that when we touch the earth, on the chemical level, free radicals are released from the body and we begin to absorb free electrons. Free radical damage is what causes the body to mutate and form cancers and all types of acidic situations that imbalance us. So if you're not a grower, at least today, take your shoes off. You're in a safe place. Put your feet on the ground. 80 minutes a day of direct contact with the earth eliminates the free radical damage of the entire day. And you got a cell phone, because I already did that poll. So every one of us is dealing with free radical damage. The other thing that it does is it reminds your body that you are an earthling. As long as we, as amazing electromagnetic beings, are constantly insulating ourselves from the pulsation of this amazing planet that we were birthed from by wearing rubber shoes and driving around on rubber wheels, then we are not on planet Earth. And then everything that somebody says to us or that we think becomes so damn important. Because we're living in the largest nation in the world, the imagination. But you got to come back to planet Earth. When you come back to planet Earth, all that stuff don't matter anymore. Because these trees are big and powerful. Because when a thunderstorm comes through, it ain't no man or woman who can talk that mess away. We got to deal with the forces of nature and harmonize with the forces of nature.